Hello and welcome to another live with Mark and Suze from World Multisport. We are streaming live to YouTube and Facebook. So firstly, welcome to those that are watching it live, but also welcome to those that are going to watch our recorded sessions that we leave up both on our Facebook and YouTube platforms. Tonight, we are talking about dealing with a disappointing race, how to overcome a race that doesn't go so well. And if you've been doing whether it be running or triathlon or multisport for a period of time and you've done a few races, there'll always be ones that don't go so well. And certainly in our experience, we've both had our fair share of races that haven't gone well as athletes, but then as coaches, even when you're working with athletes and things don't always go to plan. So we thought it would be a good one to talk about because there was a race here in Taranaki yesterday, the Cape Egmont Half Marathon. It's one of the pretty much only the few races available for local athletes. So whilst a lot of the athletes that we work with went quite well, I'm sure there were people out there that didn't go so well. So it was a topic that we thought was worth covering. So yeah, that's our topic tonight. I'm going to start with just a question, I guess, to Suze, is why do you think we get disappointed in a race? What is it that makes us get disappointed?
I think that we have, I think personally, if it's something you've been training towards, you're putting a lot into it. So it's a lot of training hours, especially if you're doing more endurance type racing. You spend a long time, you've maybe given up some things, given up time with friends or family, reduce your social life a bit. You've only had one drink instead of more. So you've given up a lot and you've put a lot out there to achieve something. And if it doesn't go to plan, that can be quite heartbreaking.
Yeah, it can be. And also, I guess, when you do commit a lot of time to it, as you say, time and, maybe time away from loved ones and even money, if it doesn't go as well as you wanted, it can be quite challenging to overcome, can't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So what we're going to talk about our experiences with some disappointing races that we've had as athletes and how we've overcome it, and then also some strategies at the end, some 5 strategies that we think are really useful and valuable that'll help you overcome a disappointing race, or even you can apply it to training sessions if you've had a disappointing training session. Because sometimes you can be training really, really well, and then all of a sudden you just have a few bad sessions and you go, well, what the hell's going on? And that's probably me at the moment. I'm really struggling in my training and I think I know why, but I'm, also at the same time not exactly sure. So, yeah, to start with, we thought we'd just talk about a couple of our own experiences when it comes to races. And certainly Suze has got a really good story to share from a race in, I'm not putting you on the spot.
No, but now it's going to be a really good story.
Well, I guess it's fair to say leading into this particular race, you were really fit. So Suze did Ironman Busselton, which is Ironman Western Australia, in December 2012. And leading into that, you were really, really fit. You'd had a
Do you want me to tell the story?
So, yeah, you go.
Okay. So I guess it started off that I did a good race at Busselton in WA in Australia. And
that was in 2010.
Yes, in 2010.
Yeah.
And then we thought, well, let's do a 2-year plan and try to qualify for Kona in 2012 and come back to Busselton. Because if I was being in the older age group if I was older by 26 days, I would have qualified. So we're like,
2010,
in 2010. So let's do a 2-year plan and come back in 2012 and really crush it. So we did that and nothing went to plan. So I went in really fit. I got 2 punctures. And if it wasn't for all the training mates that I had that were off, like also out there racing, I think I would have given up. So I still finished the race, but it was by far a good performance. I was just mentally destroyed by getting the 2 punctures and losing so much time. So I was very crushed and heartbroken and disappointed because I'd put a good 2 years into training for this event and it went nowhere near how I wanted it to go. So that was the heartbreak.
That was heartbreaking. I think even if I recall back, you had a race leading up to that, the 70.3 in Cairns about 5 months before that, where you absolutely were flying. I think you rode as quick as some of the pro women in the half Ironman, and it was we thought, oh wow, things are on track. You're in really good shape, and you had a really big, solid lead up, doing some big training, and then it just didn't work out, did it?
No. So yeah. Should I talk about how I overcame
so that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
So what did you do to overcome that?
Well, first it was just recovering from all the training. So it was coming away with a bit of downtime, didn't go according to plan, taking that time away. And then I remember we were camping, which I feel like I don't have that memory quite right because we never go camping because you don't like it.
We've got
just ignore the
a child and a car in the background.
And what I did is I set a new goal. So I went from Bustleton was the start of December, and then I decided I didn't want all my training to go to waste, that I was going to do Melbourne Ironman, which was end of March. Yeah. So essentially I had some downtime. Then I turned around, I had to do the training again to train up again for Melbourne. So I lost a little bit of fitness, but not so much, and then just changed my training to go into a new race. So that was how I overcame it. First I had some downtime, recovered, chose a new race, crushed that race.
And you did crush that race. You actually had a really, really good race at Ironman Melbourne, and I'll talk on Susan's behalf because I was there watching, and it was a fantastic race. I mean, you meant 9 hours 46 or something with a shortened swim, about a 1,500 metre shortened swim because the conditions were so rough. But whilst you didn't qualify for Kona, you got 8th in the 30 to 34 ladies, and it was an amazingly quick and fast year.
Wow, I missed it by one spot.
You were still really satisfied with your race, weren't you?
Yeah, because I'd done so much training by that time, I didn't want to go to Kona anymore. I guess you're looking at it that again, there was a disappointment that I missed out, but there was so much other cool stuff to gain from, the actual race result that I did. Yeah. That I was still happy with that result, even though I guess if you looked at it purely from a qualifying for Kona perspective, there would have been disappointment there.
Yeah.
It was more relief in the end.
Yeah. So I guess the lesson in that is that you took some downtime to deal with it, realized that, okay, that didn't go so well, I'm not happy with that. And then you reframed it and put it towards a new goal. And even the way you trained for Melbourne was different to what you trained before. You did a lot less volume, a bit more intensity, and you really took the pressure off. It wasn't about qualifying for Kona. It was just about, well, I want to enjoy it. And you went in and you actually did really crush it, had a great race.
But I think when you say the pressure that we put in ourselves to want to achieve certain goals can also have an effect on our race result. So going into that Bustleton race, I had so much pressure on myself to get the time that I wanted to do. And I feel like that actually, while it didn't cause any punctures, I felt like it affected my mental state. Whereas going into Melbourne, I was so overtraining. I just didn't care whether I qualified or not because I did not want to do another Ironman. And I almost went in more relaxed because I just didn't care what happened in the end. I just wanted to finish the damn thing.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be a really great race, just kind of taking a bit more of a pressure off approach.
So that's probably our first strategy that we wanted to talk about, is to, I guess, give yourself some time to reflect on the event. Why didn't it go to plan? What was it that didn't work? What did work? I mean, if you have a really bad race, generally the rule that I recommend is you can have 48 hours where you can be a sad sack. You can mope around and feel sorry for yourself, but after 48 hours, you then, okay, life goes on. It's just not the end of the world. It's just a race, whether it's an Ironman or a running event or a short course triathlon or whatever. After that 48 hours, you then, once the emotion has died down, you try and review it objectively. And that's what you did after Bustleton. We had a bit of a holiday and you reviewed it objectively and thought, okay, well, let's do Melbourne.
I mean, there's always another race. Like, it gets harder when you're getting into the longer distance because it is a lot harder to turn around and just do another one. But definitely with the shorter distances, Olympic distance, you're up to half marathon running distance, it is easier to just turn around and pick another race.
Yeah. And so that was so one strategy there was, giving yourself time, overcoming it, reviewing what happened, and then choosing another goal, which is, they're two of the strategies that we wanted to speak about, of the 5 strategies to help you overcome a disappointing race. I guess moving on to the next one probably is an experience for myself, in that the next strategy is reframing what is your idea of success. So I guess if we also touch on the Ironman and the long course, in 2015, 2016 and 2017, I raced Ironman Cairns 3 years in a row. And for 3 years in a row, I had some horrific vomiting and cramping problems where my body just wasn't cooperating with the expectations and the goals that I wanted to achieve. And that was primarily getting to Kona. And for 3 years in a row, I was like, 2017, I missed out by 4 minutes. 2015, I missed out by 10 minutes. 2016, I missed out by 7 or 8 minutes or something. And it was all because every one of those races, despite being so fit and ready, I had some problems with cramping and vomiting. Despite seeing so many specialists and nutritionists and dietitians and exercise physiologists, my body just doesn't respond to racing in hot conditions very well because I have such a high sweat rate. So I had to reframe what I thought was success. And for me, when I went into it, success was, okay, well, I've got to make Kona. But I then reframed it and thought, well, no, the success here is I've learned so much about nutrition, hydration, training principles that I can then help other athletes with. So that was how I overcame that disappointment of, working really hard 3 years in a row, but not, I guess, getting the goals or the outcomes that I did want to achieve. But when I put my coach's hat on, I learned so much more about it. So there's always, I guess, looking at how you can define success.
But I would also say that you haven't completely overcome that disappointment. Like you can say, oh yeah, there's a silver lining, but I would say that that's still a little itch you've got to scratch.
It is an itch that I've got to scratch, because I believe in myself that I have the ability to qualify, and I know that I do. And it is an itch that I've got to scratch. And the history of my body throughout my whole sporting career for the last 30 years, like even this week, I'm about to have my 10th operation, and that's all from sporting related injuries. So my body hasn't always played ball with my sporting goals, and there's been other things that I've tried to achieve in my sporting career where my body has let me down. But
so then maybe sometimes it's more managing the disappointment. You haven't completely overcome it, and you won't overcome it until you do qualify for Kona.
I may never qualify for Kona, and that's the next strategy, I guess, putting things into perspective and remembering your why. Now, after I missed out on, especially 2017, I was pretty down in the dumps for a while, because I was in the best shape of my life. I had a fantastic race, whilst I didn't vomit, I cramped a lot and did everything I possibly could to give myself the best chance, and still missed out by a shortest of margin. So I just went back to, well, I'm doing this because I have my health and the opportunity to be active, and I love doing it, and I love coaching, and I love helping other people do it, and that's why I am part of it. It's qualifying for Kona is a bonus. So that's the next strategy, is to put things into perspective. It's not that big a deal if you don't qualify for Kona or a race doesn't go well. There's a lot of things that we can be grateful for. Basics of life, roof over our head, and the ability even just to swim, bike and run for fun is something that we should be grateful for. So I try and, on those times when I am disappointed, I do really work hard to put things into perspective.
Okay.
Even then, I still want to qualify for Kona, which maybe next year I could have it a go, but we'll see. And then I guess finally, just, we sort of touched on this one. It's reviewing things objectively once the emotions have died down. So you'll never make a truly objective assessment of what happened if you're still emotional about it, if you're still in that disappointing phase. So, taking a week or so, and then, talking, if you've got a coach, talking to your coach, or maybe talking to your training partners, or talking to your partner, and, asking for some honest feedback. Maybe they'll see something in your preparation that you missed,
And I think sometimes you need that. You need that objective feedback because we can't always see our own holes. So it might be that, you actually didn't do the training that you think you did. Yeah. And even looking back at your training program and looking at how many hours you're actually getting done each week might actually reveal that you rocked up to your race and not as fit as you thought you were. And maybe someone can tell you that without you
that's right.
getting too upset.
And that's where maybe, your expectations may have been unrealistic, leading into it. If thinking, I'm in really good shape, training's going well, but maybe it wasn't, and the expectations were not in line with reality.
I remember you've done that before. If you let me finish, that, you might have done a race, but then you actually go and you've calculated all your hours of training each week, like for like a year out, and gone, actually, I've only averaged X amount, and that's not what I actually thought happened. So that kind of explains why that I wasn't actually where I thought I was. Yeah. So I wasn't taking the piss out of you. I was just saying that you've added up hours before and had a bit of self-reflection.
Yes, yeah. So that's where, if you've got a partner like I have with Sue, she'll be, more than happy to give you the blunt, honest feedback that you need. But yes, sometimes we can have blinkers on about how well our preparation has gone, and maybe not always seeing the holes or things that have been missing that maybe weren't in line with your expectations leading into the event. So that is our experiences of some of the races that we've done as athletes and how we've overcome the disappointment. And the reality is, when you race often enough, there will always be times where it just doesn't go well for one reason or another.
But the more races you do, the odds should work in your favor eventually. Eventually,
especially if you prepare well and you train consistently, and you've got good training partners. Hopefully, you've got a good coach. If you're doing all of that, well, then you give yourself the best chance to have a good race and not have that disappointment.
But in saying that as well, I think it's important to have races you're disappointed at. We were talking earlier about we have met some people who set the expectations so low that they're always happy. Yes, so it's got to be a bit of a mix. We've still got to aim high, and risk disappointment. But when things do pay off and you do get everything together on race day, there's nothing like the post-race drinks.
Absolutely. When you do put it all out there, you train hard, you train consistently, you've done everything you can to prepare well, and then on the day you race to the best of your ability, well, then regardless of the time or what place you come, generally you're going to be pretty happy. Yeah. So good point. But sometimes there are people that will subconsciously hold back because they don't want to feel that disappointment, which is tough.
All right.
Thank you again for watching. Quite a few people tuning in live again. Really appreciate your support, and those that are watching it later on YouTube or Facebook. We'd ask one favor, if that's okay, if you could possibly, if you do watch it on the YouTube channel, maybe subscribe, and so you get notifications when we're doing more of these. Neil, thanks guys. A lot of good, very helpful info. Very helpful. I find hard in my mindset after a bad race. That's pretty normal, Neil. I guess great stuff. Enjoyed that, and so relevant. So John did a half marathon yesterday. Cape Egmont did really, really well. But look, if you are watching it and on YouTube, click the subscribe button, or if leave us some comments on Facebook, just to say look, really enjoying these shows and some topics, because we're really keen to get out and do more topics and share the information with everyone else.
Cool. All right. Good night.
And we'll see you next week. Cheers, guys. Bye.